From day one, we are told who we should be, how to live, and what's acceptable. Before we even have a chance to discover ourselves, our society has already drawn those lines for us. But what happens when those lines are keeping us from knowing and embracing who we truly are? Welcome to Unbox Yourself with Samantha Fox, a podcast about unpacking and unlearning everything that's kept you from living as your true self. Through honest conversations about your internal emotional landscape, sexuality, coming out later in life, relationships, and the journey to self acceptance, we break free from the boxes we never chose. Hello, and welcome to Unbox Yourself with Samantha Fox. Today, I have Nikki as my guest, and I'm very excited to have Nikki here.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's so great to have you. Thank you for coming on. So I love Nikki's story and where she is today. Nikki has been through a lot, and she's in a place today that I'm going to have her share the details of with you. But she's in a place today that I feel like for so many women who are realizing their same-sex attraction later in life and are partnered with or married to men, that it's just really hard to imagine the sort of gray and nuanced landscape of where Nikki currently is living on a day-to-day basis. And this is a place where ethical non-monogamy is part of her day-to-day life and has created just so much expansiveness and difficulty, but joy and like everything in the middle. So I love your story. I love the space that you're in. We know things will change because change is the only constant, right? So we're not saying anything about the future. We're just celebrating where you have arrived and also inspiring my audience to think outside the box, and the way you're living is that. So I would love for you to just just kind of like share a little bit about your age, how long you've been married, a little bit about your relationship with your husband, and then just a little bit about where you are now. And then we'll go backwards after that.
Okay. I'm 49 and a half years old. I met my husband when I was 21. So we've known each other for almost 29 years. We started dating in 2002 and we've been married since 2004. So married for almost 24 years. And we have a pair of 11-year-olds. I married the most safe man I have ever known, safe in all the ways and so loving. And he's an amazing family man. He's my best friend. And we have built a really beautiful life together. You know, have these beautiful kids, we have careers, and through growing up in a very unstable situation, it's been beautiful to have such stability in our lives together. And I did kind of blow that all up when I came out to him about 3.5 years ago. But through a lot of communication and a lot of hard work, we have found our way to ethical non-monogamy, to the point where we each have a local person that has been in our lives for over 6 months for each of us.
Mm-hmm.
We just try and balance that, juggling family life and parenting and keeping our connection strong while also having a significant other person in our lives who make us feel loved and adored and giddy and beautiful and attractive.
And loving that for each other. Like, is there that too?
Yes. I, when I came out and realized that I was never going to be able to be, intimate with my husband again, I didn't want to deny him that, um, that feeling of being loved and adored and celebrated. And I can love and adore him and celebrate him in very, very platonic ways and in all of the platonic ways. But as far as intimacy goes, that is not something I can provide. And I I'm so happy for him that he's got someone in his life who can provide that. And it's unusual. It's not the norm. Some might even say taboo, but I feel like where I eventually want to go with where we are living is to make it less taboo and to normalize it in some ways, because I think that we are the most heterosexual presenting happy couple in the world, but most people have no clue what we're living. And society's come a long way, but I'm still not sure if they're fully ready for what we live in the mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. I think we have a little bit of a ways to go, right? I
Yeah.
think in
I
certain
mean, it's like,
pockets it's okay, but it's like it's hard to come out outside of those communities that are understanding.
yeah. I mean, I joke about the Girl Scout moms and like, but seriously, like, as some of the Girl Scout moms have found out about me coming out and ethical non-monogamy, I feel like we've been kind of cut out of the social circle a bit. I hear about, gatherings or social settings that we're not invited to anymore. And that's really hurtful. One of the reasons I love the BiLife group, Sam, is that I have found my way to a community of women who aren't pushing me out because of the way I'm living. I have found people embracing me and the way I'm living and wanting to be my friend and wanting to support this and and honoring that this is not something that just happened overnight either. That this is a long process to get to this place of practicing ethical non-monogamy and maintaining a loving marriage and partnership with my husband. And I feel so seen in the group and really, really appreciate that. And so thank you for creating a space where this is possible.
Yeah. And I love how things have kind of transitioned for you there too, because I know how appreciated you are and you stand for that nuanced space that many of the women that are in the bi life have considered when they have partners who might be open to opening up a marriage. And so you've gone from this space where initially when you were in there, you were kind of like, oh, I'm in a different space than everybody else. And I'm not really sure I could take up that much space, or if I should, or should I not be in this group, to now being kind of like the sought after, I need to get in touch with Nikki and find out, what she thinks about this and that, which I love. So I love the space that you take up in the community. And,
Thank you.
and it makes sense because you are, really honoring, there are difficult parts in your journey, even today, even though you're in this nuanced space, but that doesn't mean you don't feel anything. So you're honoring what feels difficult and some loss and some challenges, but also the beauty of being together with your husband and your children and having family time, and also having a beautiful blossoming relationship with somebody that feels really aligned with you, while also watching your husband, who you are not in any way, open to any kind of sensual or sexual relationship with, also have a relationship that fulfills that. And I'm sure other things as well. So it's just so beautiful. It makes me very happy. I think it could be interesting for people to hear about just a little bit of, you say you met your husband when you were 21, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So maybe you can take us backwards a little bit and just go back to at that point when you met him. Had you had any inkling that you had same-sex attraction? Had that showed up for you anywhere before? Was it like just a later in life discovery for you? And just take us a little bit on that journey.
I think it was a deeply, deeply suppressed attraction to women that I had no clue how to put words to. Again, yes, I met my husband at the age of 21, but the first time I remember kissing a girl was, I think, in sixth grade, and she was my best friend, and I was so proud of like us kissing. I did it in front of my mom, and my mom got really angry and said, girls don't kiss other girls, never do that again. And so I didn't because I'm a rule follower. And then I didn't understand, but there were always these women in my life, whether they were camp counselors or fellow swim team members who were maybe just a little bit older, that I just had this longing for, like a big sister longing slash infatuation, that I was like, they're just so cool. Like I want them in my life. I want
Hmm.
to be like them, but I know that I'm myself, but how do I keep them in my life? And, so I had the pen pal from camp who was my camp counselor in my life for years. And a lot of that was actually super helpful for me because of sort of really traumatic things that I had happen as a child growing up. And these women, they provided role models actually for me to stay strong and keep living, keep persevering, not fall into sort of a victim role, and just keep persevering and being a survivor and being resilient and rising above no matter what life threw at me.
So after this kiss that happened in sixth grade, what happened in terms of like your typical adolescence where you're exploring, there's the kiss, spin the bottle and like whatever other things happen, right? But your friends, I'm guessing your friends started dating and whatnot. Like, where were you in that time? Were you dating boys? Like, what happened for you?
I dated in high school one boy the whole time. We had forms of intimacy, but I was a good kid. I was also incredibly involved with the church. And so I was afraid of sinning and doing things badly and doing things wrong. And then I mean, I did date boys in college and it was fun, but it wasn't anything serious until really my husband. When I met him and started dating him, we were friends for a couple of 3 or 4 years, 3 years before we started dating. So there were lots of boys and I loved flirting. I loved being attractive and getting men's attention.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, that was fun. It was almost like a game for me in some
Hmm.
ways. But again, I was super involved in the church, and that kind of always kept me more on the more innocent side of where things would go or how things would play out.
Hmm. And since your mom's statement about girls don't kiss girls and then the church and sort of the conditioning and the teachings of the church about how this is like not okay. And I know you said you had these obsessions and whatnot with girls and, just really kind of looking up to them. But was there anything that stood out to you beyond that in those years before you met your husband with a girl? Like, was there anybody that you had like a crazy crush on or?
No, but women would be attracted to me. And that was the interesting thing. Women would come. I lived in the Bay Area for a year between undergraduate and graduate school. And there were several women that would come and hit on me, and I didn't understand it. I was actually completely oblivious to it. And my roommates at the time would like come up to me and say, "You realize what just happened, right?" I'm like, no, no, and they'd laugh. And, it happened 3 or 4 times. And then actually, I was living with my husband before we were married, and there was a couple across the street, a female married couple. Long story short, they were police officers. Our house was broken into. My husband was away. And they came and hung out with me at the house until he got home, just to make sure it was safe. And they talked to me like, "Are you sure you want to marry a man? Like, are you sure you're not like one of us?" Like, that is such a bizarre thing. Like, why would you ask me that? We're engaged. So, I mean, maybe the rest of the world saw something I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there was foreshadowing, but you were not up on it. You were like, why are they asking me
No,
that? Yeah.
I think I was the last to know. I mean, and once I did come out, there's a lot of looking back and like, oh, no wonder I didn't get the big deal about the volleyball scene in Top Gun, because I was totally into Kelly McGillis's character. I mean, a hot, strong female instructor at Top Gun, like, hello. But again, no words, no concept that that was even a possibility for me or
Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah.
So,
I can
yeah.
relate. I can relate. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you and your husband then connected and started living together.
Yes. And then slowly, shortly after we got married, and, I was finally officially married. So it was like, okay. And within the concept of the church to have sex, I had repressed memories start surfacing from really, really horrific childhood trauma.
Mm,
And that really took a toll on our sex life. And I froze and I kept thinking like there's no way I can be intimate. And that was really, really hard. The repressed memories and the flashbacks just overtook me. Um to Took me to a dark place. And we tried sex therapy, because I was like, okay, maybe like there's some kind of fix or like healing I'm supposed to do in that realm. But like the whole idea of it was just disgusting to me. I was like, I can't do this. I just can't. And I felt horrible. I kept searching for these ways I was supposed to heal in some way so that I could be intimate with my husband. And, I was approaching my mid 30s at this point, and, that magical age of 35 when you're supposed to have babies or else your eggs start to turn bad. And we did some fertility testing, and it became clear that we were in fact going to need some support getting pregnant. And I was so relieved. I'm like, hallelujah, I don't have to have sex to have babies. And like that was that took so much pressure off of me and the need for my body to perform in a way that no matter what I did, I just couldn't make it happen.
yeah.
And again, I felt torn up about this. Like, why can I not do this? Thankfully, medical interventions. um, but
How
yeah,
was your husband kind of handling this, new information that was entering into your relationship that, that was making it really clear that this was so painful for you and it just wasn't going to
he was
happen?
so kind. Yeah, he was so kind and so patient. And, that broke my heart. Like it made me feel even worse because like how did I get to be so lucky that I got such a kind, loving husband who is just filled with utmost patience and respect and like, sweetie, we won't, I'm not going to push you. Do what we need to do or not do, and it's okay. And he really like he's a gem. I talk about this with friends, a few confided friends, and they were like, "Wow, he's a keeper." Like, so, I mean, we're talking like 15 years ago or more that I just was completely not able to be present in an intimate way with him. And he stayed, and he was my best friend and my solid rock through it all, through the repressed memories, through, multiple injuries, and ultimately an infertility journey that was marked by a lot of devastation.
Mm,
And he continued to say, we'll get through it. We'll get through it.
wow. Wow. Remarkable.
Ultimately, what we learned was that my body was damaged enough through the horrific assaults that happened at a young age that my uterus was not able to carry children. So we ended up having a surrogate, and she's still a wonderful, wonderful part of my life to this day. We put two embryos in, one boy embryo, one girl embryo, and we got two babies. So,
Amazing.
it really did confirm that it was just my body and not the inability for us to have children. And really it was such a beautiful surrogacy journey after all the devastation and leading up to it. So to be able to celebrate that, and it's interesting because in that journey I was kind of like, when the infertility stuff happened, I was like, why this too? Why this too? I'm not affiliated with the body of the church anymore. I still have a deep faith and find my way through prayer a lot. And I did a lot of prayer around, God, why this too? Why? Why can't I carry children? And in one of the most calm, peaceful ways, something overcame me in the prayer And it was, this part of my body is only meant to know pleasure from now on. And
Mm,
it's like that's, yeah, this part of my body has suffered enough. Like I get to just know pleasure from now
so
on.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's interesting. I think that when I look back at my surrogacy journey and getting to know my surrogate versus the first woman I dated after coming out, I realized and looked back at the parallels of like, my goodness, the first woman I fell in love with was my surrogate. It wasn't, we weren't physical in any way, but the same, like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk to her next. Oh my gosh, we text. Oh my gosh, I look at this cute picture of this thing, or my favorite song just came out. Like all that excitement, that giddiness,
Uh,
that like those falling in love butterflies. Like I got to have those with her, and like how cool that like in addition to that, she gave me like the ultimate gift of my babies.
so
So
beautiful. Wow.
yeah,
Unbelievable. So moving.
yeah,
Oh, wow. Very emotional.
yeah.
Yeah. So take us from that to how or when in your journey of motherhood you decided that you really needed to like open up your marriage and actually be able to have a relationship with a woman.
Okay. So I would say, like, fast forward all the way to COVID and the world was shut down. We thankfully had the opportunity to, in June of 2021, go to Hawaii and use up some timeshare weeks and some flight credits that had expired during the COVID time period. And there was another couple that we became super close friends with on at our time in Hawaii. And they also had boy girl twins, the exact same age as my kids at the time. And the couple was a pair of married women, and I had so much fun hanging out with them. And I had started to kind of wonder just a tiny bit, like if I really got quiet with myself and really journaled, I was questioning a little bit. And then this week hanging out with them was so fun. And then we went to visit them at their home in the fall because they live, about 6 hours away. And I saw their life and I was like, oh my gosh, they're living the same life I'm living, just with two women. And I got really sad, like really like, oh my gosh, I think I might have married the wrong gender. And then by January of 2022, I was holding it in so tight and I journaled and I wrote it down. I think I might be gay. Oh my goodness. In the meantime, my daughter was the age that I was when I was first assaulted. And I saw how young that is and how young an 8-year-old's body is. I have a history of an eating disorder. And unfortunately, or some could say fortunately, it spiraled out of control again. And it spiraled fast to the point where my treatment team said, I'm sorry, you need to be inpatient. And so I had to go leave my family for almost 3 months to an eating disorder treatment program. And I was so fortunate when I was there that there was a group of 4 or 5 of us who were in our 40s, which is super rare for eating disorder treatment. And not only that, there was a handful of other queer people there too. And so in this environment, like a super supportive, healing environment with women not only in their 40s, but also women who were queer, I was able to have conversations and overhear a lot of conversations because I was so shy about talking about anything intimacy related on my end. And slowly through the conversations that were had with other women at treatment, and a connection with someone in particular, my body came alive in a way that I didn't know was possible. I had something I had never experienced. And this light bulb went off in my head like, holy shit, I'm not broken. I'm just gay. Like all this healing I've been seeking in some way or another, like I'm searching for something that doesn't exist when in fact, really that I'm fine just as I am. I'm just gay. And that was a huge awakening and relief and felt so true and so real but here I am away at treatment and I've got to go home
How
and I've got
far
to
into your treatment did this awakening happen? How long had you been there?
probably 7 or 8 weeks.
Okay.
So pretty far along.
Yeah, 2/3 of the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, it was far enough along where there was talk of me starting to go home, but then it was like, wait a minute, like I was going to go home and just go right to just doing outpatient work with my existing team. And this kind of threw everything up in the air and sort of said, whoa, let's like slow down discharge here. There needs to be a safety plan. There needs to be a team, there's, so with eating disorder, there's inpatient, then there's partial hospitalization programs, and then there's intensive outpatient programs. So there needed to be kind of a step down put into place. So there was a more local place that then I entered into PHP or partial hospitalization and then transitioned down to IOP. So all of that needed to be in place before anyone felt comfortable with me coming home holding this news that I was holding, that knew I was about to blow up this perfectly healthy, safe, loving, supportive environment that my husband and I had worked so hard to create. The nicest, most supportive guy in the world who I've been letting down all these years. And now I have to come back home and tell him, like, there isn't this healing that I thought existed out there. Not only are you the most amazing and been so supportive, but now I have to tell you I'm gay. And like, that anything
Mm.
that you were holding out hope for is never going to happen. And that put me in a really dark place.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Wow.
Yeah. So,
Oof. So while you were in rehab, you were able to come out with this, and your team knew that you had now this added heavy thing on top of the work you've been doing to,
my
yeah.
team and my inpatient team knew I had to come home first and tell my home team, which I did. And I started at the PHP program and came out with all of them. And so there was at this point daily support in my life around getting ready to come out. The first person I came out to was my best friend. She actually begged me not to tell my husband and said, look at this beautiful life you've created for yourself. Why would you ruin this?
Mm.
And why would you like come to this support group at my church, come to this group for women or people who have same-sex attraction, who want to stay living in holy marriages? And I just knew, like, suppressing this anymore, it was kind of like once Pandora's box was open, there was no closing it.
Yeah.
I was in a dark place and I had to be done. It had to be shared. So I came up with a metaphor about, something that we had in our lives that wasn't beautiful before and how we'd renovated it, made it beautiful, and that maybe there was hope that we could do something like this, and wrote him a letter to come out to him just in hopes that it would be received well. And the initial response was I think he went through all the stages of grief within a matter of 10 minutes and continued to, of course, go through those initial stages of grief, or those
Yeah.
stages of grief over time and not at deeper levels. But, there was denial, there was anger, there was sadness, there was anger, it was not smooth. It was hard. It was,
Yeah.
and thankfully I had arranged for us to have a couples therapist. So our first session, or second session, I think, was the day after I told him. So, I had no idea how he'd take it. I didn't know if he'd throw me out of the house and say, don't come back. I didn't know if he'd hug me with arms and say, we'll get through this one too.
Right.
Uh, like there's no predicting how somebody will receive news that the person they love the most in this world can never provide them with the kind of fulfillment that they were holding on to hope for 20 years.
Oof.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Then what happened?
Slowly through couples therapy, we redefined our marriage. We redefined how things would look and feel, how our interactions would be together. We established core values. And I am somebody who really does well with identifying what the values are that I want to move forward with in action. I like one of my key values is authenticity. Within our marriage, we decided our core values were family first, respect, communication, honesty, and I think it was strengthening the love that we do have. Where we really landed was the Greeks have, some say six, some say eight, some say nine. I like to think of nine. The Greeks have nine different words for different types of love. In America, it's just love. And in Greek, there's all kinds. And if we look at them, we have all of the loves but the erotic, eros. And why would we throw everything away just because we don't have the erotic? I mean, that's pretty awesome to have the other eight. And, at this point, our kids were, I think, 8 years old. And so young, like, to upend their world when they've already had their world upended once through COVID, getting pulled out of kindergarten. So, we just said, okay, this is how it's going to go. And we actually, like, it was hard for me, any physical touch, like hugs, anything, it just really needed to be off the table. And he honored and respected that. And then we slowly, reached a point where if he really needed a hug, he would ask for a hug. If I needed a hug, I would ask for a hug. And we rebuilt just even at that foundational level.
I love that.
And all through couples therapy. And he also, so I had my own therapist, he had his own therapist, and we had a couples therapist.
Yeah, you had a whole
It
team. Yep.
helped. Yeah, that they all know each other. They weren't talking necessarily to each other, but they all follow the same modality in therapy, which is narrative therapy. And so they all were kind of approaching it from a similar mindset and a similar kind of, they all know each other personally too. And so they're all open-minded people who have navigated helping couples and families live in a gray that I never knew was possible. It was interesting when one of the earlier people I came out to was one of my sisters. And she said, well, so you're getting divorced now? Like, no, actually, we're not. And
she was probably pretty confused with that
really?
answer.
Yeah.
Like, what?
People don't know that there are these ways of living in the gray. I wish I would have known it when I was freaking out the months prior about blowing up my life or like coming out to him. If I had known that there were more gray ways of living out there, I maybe wouldn't have been as terrified. And maybe I could have approached it a little better. I can't control his response to me sharing my news, but maybe there was a way I could have presented. It doesn't have to, be like this horrible thing, or it could have changed things, maybe.
Yes, which is why I love your story and why I'm so thankful that you're here to share it, just because, I think so many of the women that reach out to me have great guys that they're with that are, amazing friends and life partners, and they have all these pieces, but they're missing that one piece, and they don't know. They think, why would I give up everything just for this? And then it's like, how important is that anyway? And so it's like, I can just give it all up. I can just give that piece up because I have the other stuff. Why, like, is that really important? And they don't know that there are other options.
Yeah, there are. And, it's dating, it's not just about the erotic, as we date, we do develop the other types of love too.
Yeah.
And I see that happening for him, and it's happening for me. And I love that at the start you use the word expansive, because I feel like that's where we are approaching, is a place of expansiveness. This isn't public knowledge in our community or even for our kids. But, dad and I each have some friends. And they're funny. Mom, how come none of your friends are boys? Why are all your friends girls? And I'm like, well, I'm married to dad. Like, that might be a little like weird if I'm, close with other men. And they're like, but dad's friends are all women too. Like, high five, dad. It's awesome.
So they notice and they're aware that,
Yes.
they're asking these questions and they're obviously curious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely curious. And someday, there's a possibility that one of my kids could come out in life. I think that maybe I did some sort of helpful thing by paving the way for them. I think I love my husband. I adore him. I love him to pieces. And before I came out, he was kind of a black and white, like it's yes or no. There's a,
Right and wrong, good and
like,
bad.
yeah.
Yep.
And, to his credit, in what, 3.5 years, to work so hard to like have us living in the gray is I'm so proud of him and so appreciative of him for taking on doing the work on his side for us to live in the gray. And it hopefully someday could serve our kids well to have us living in the gray together.
Yes.
And not having them have to define who they are black and white at any point.
Yeah, yeah. And I call it being boxed in, by
Yeah.
these ideas of compulsory monogamy or compulsory heterosexuality, like all of the things, compulsory femininity or compulsory masculinity for your son or when
Right.
it like all the boxes. It's just, you represent that you can live outside the box,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is it's just so wonderful to see. Were there any things on this journey of opening up, like mistakes you made or the lesson you learned along the way that you think would be helpful to pass down to somebody else who's starting this journey, whether it was like with the first person you were dating or if it was your husband's dating and some way you reacted or just any tips? Cause now you're here. I think that would be
Right.
helpful.
So, tips, first of all, the first things that were super helpful when I was officially out to him, but not out to friends or what, I joined several online communities through Facebook primarily, actually. There were several coming out late kind of groups or late in life groups. And it was great because they're message boards. And, things from, people who are actually dating all the way to how do I date to does anyone have any good books to read? Because like I discovered this thing about myself and like I wanted to read really fun books. And
Uh-huh.
so I've got great book recommendations about, sexy books to read. So even though I wasn't living it out in my life, at least I was having fun reading privately. And, like just getting aroused by reading about women loving women was so fulfilling initially. And then I would say don't jump into something as quickly as I did.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
that's never going to go over, Nikki. That one's just not going to go over. Not between two women. I've been saying this forever and it's
no,
wildfire, but
like I accidentally connected with someone on the message boards through like, you post your picture and somebody hits like if they want to send you positive energy or like love if they wouldn't mind you slipping into their DMs. And so I posted my picture and some lovely, lovely woman hit love and we fell in love. I mean, the that was about less than 6 months after I came out to my
mhm,
husband.
mhm,
And that was really too soon for him and his nervous system to
mhm.
process. And thankfully, she lived on the other side of the country. And so it kept things slow in that there was, no quickly flying across the country to go visit. That we waited another 6 months for that, which that actually is something I do think was a good thing.
Yeah.
Having that distance did keep things naturally slow. And as torturous as it was, that was necessary. So that would be both a lesson or something I would do differently, but also a good lesson learned.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else. This is the first person that my husband is dating on a more serious basis than the women I've dated. And there's been a lot of feelings around like hypocrisy a little bit. Like he's had to navigate me dating and feeling these hurt feelings, or, you know, there are things now that he's dating that have happened where he might say, I'm going to go out this night, rather than, hey, what's your schedule like
The
on this
check-in.
day? Would you mind if? And, I've talked about him about it, or he'll be out on a date and he'll not reply to my message about, hey, what did you have planned for dinner so I can get food started? And again, those come back to those core values we established, which were family first. Like, I need to feed the kids. What's the plan for feeding the kids? So,
Mm-hmm.
because he does the food part, that's like one of his jobs in the house. So, so coming to him and saying, like, hey, like, this hurts. We had a couple sessions because we do, I would say probably once every 4 months, we kind of need a check in because this is not easy. And
Mm-hmm.
as joyous as it is, it still takes a lot of work. And so, we had one and he started to get, how dare you say that? Like, I've had to deal with this for 3 years, and our couples therapist was great. And she's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, yes, you've had to deal with this feeling for 3 years. However, Nikki is experiencing these feelings for the first time. And so you had questions of Nikki when she was going through this, and I'm sure Nikki has questions of you. So can we pause and let Nikki ask the question?
Good.
And
Yeah.
that really brings him down and
Yep.
reminds him,
Yep.
like, yeah. The one of the most healing moments happened earlier this summer with him because, he was hurt when I was, messaging with women, texting. I might get a text while we were supposed to be watching a family show or having game night with the family, and his feelings would be hurt. And he's like, can you just put your phone down? Earlier this summer, he apologized to me and he said, I am so sorry. I am so sorry that I gave you such a hard time
Mm.
when you had these initial blooming feelings for a person that you were dating. I get it now. Like, and I'm really sorry I was so hard on you. And how did you do it? How did you set that boundary? How did you actually like stay present for the family? And so like it was like, and the answer is I leave my phone in the other room.
Yeah.
And if you have an Apple Watch and you get pinged on your watch, like I take my watch off. Like, and I need to communicate those boundaries to the women I'm,
Mm-hmm.
dating or talking with. Like, hey, this is family time. I'm not going to be responding.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was the sweetest thing of an apology, an acknowledgement, and advice seeking. And I feel like that it's like we almost came full circle at that point.
Yeah. It was like, hey, I'm having NRE, like the new relationship energy. Can you help? Like, what do I do? You've been through this already. Like, this is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so sweet. Very sweet.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And so now we're at a phase where, the people that we're seeing are in our lives enough that we're getting ready to slowly we've each met the other person's person once. And there's a lot of respect towards each person's person.
Mm-hmm.
And, to circle back to expansiveness, I think the
Mm.
hope is we're not rushing it, but the hope is that someday to, everybody has kids. Maybe the kids all know each other, but, again, one day at a time. And there's no rush.
Yeah. And
And
also, this is such a beautiful spot that you're in to just actually like let yourself be in that, like be present with today after everything
right,
you've been through.
right. Yeah. And let's enjoy the beauty of where we are because it's not normal. It's unconventional, yet it's so beautiful. And the few people who do know, who have kept us in their lives, have made comments recently like, I've never seen you guys as connected or at peace with one another, or as calm
Yeah.
as you are. And I love that that's the kind of energy that we're emanating in our community.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is your creation. The two of you have created this. And and also, it's not for everybody. Some people are like, I could never do that. It's just way too hard.
Right.
And that's
And it
okay.
is.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
get it.
It is really hard. Like, I think it comes back to your core values and, you know, yeah, I mean, it's not a journey for everybody, but I love that you're just an example of, it's not easy breezy. It's not 1, 2, 3, but with a lot of work and a lot of intentionality and a lot of help, there is a way to get to this expansive, calm, pleasure filled, intimacy filled on all the different levels space. And yeah, it's just, like I said in the beginning, it's so inspiring and it's so beautiful. So I thank you so much for sharing your journey with my listeners. And I wish you nothing but day to day peacefulness and calm, knowing that, the emotions will come and they'll go and there'll be hard times and whatnot, because that's what life is. But you deserve, like, yeah, like the answer to your prayer, a lot of pleasure in all the different ways after so much pain, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Thank
yeah,
you.
I just really appreciate the safety of the community that you have formed with the BiLife group. It's great to be connecting with some of the women to the point where we now text each other fairly consistently and get to cheer each other on in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a great community. It really is. I love that you have that community because I remember, in the beginning of the Bi Life, you were like, I really, really want community. Like, I really, really want people that I can relate to that understand me and can see me and you got it. You got it. I
yeah,
mean,
I
you put
sure
it out
did.
there
I
and you
sure
sure got
did.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Nikki. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your story.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending this time with me on Unbox Yourself with Samantha Fox. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps more folks find these conversations. If you're ready to unbox from something that's keeping you stuck, I would love to support you. You can find the application to the show at unboxyoursexuality.com. Let's stay connected. Find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Lesbian Curiosity Coach. Give me a follow and join the conversation. Remember, we only have this one time through. Why not unbox yourself and let your true self shine in all its beautiful glory?